Sim racing setups are a complete mystery to me. I'll be honest, I am absolutely clueless about them. I've tried reading up on them, I've tried learning about them to understand what everything does, but I just don't have the free time to even start creating my own setups. As a result, whenever I enter a race, I'll usually end up running the game's default settings. Am I at a disadvantage? Quite possibly. Am I missing out? Almost certainly. However, sim racing setups are just too complicated and time consuming for me to even consider at the moment. But what if they weren't? What if there was a more simple way to make setups quick, easy and more accessible for casual sim racers like me? Let me explain how I think this could work. If you don't use sim racing setups, it's probably for one of three reasons. You don't have the time, you don't have the knowledge, or you don't have either of them. I'm very much in that third camp. I'm a casual sim racer and at most I'll only get around 2 to 3 hours per week to squeeze in a couple of races. My gaming time is precious, so I want to spend all of it out on track, not in the garage in front of a setup screen. Even if I spent just 30 to 60 minutes testing a few setup tweaks for a specific combo, that would use up my time and then I wouldn't get a chance to race it. So that's the reason why I've ruled out custom setups for my sim racing experience. So what are my options? Well, the obvious one is to enter fixed setup races. This means that I can run a default setup with no risk of being at any disadvantage against the other drivers. But some sims don't offer fixed setup races. Assetto Corsa Competizione is a prime example. Custom setups in ACC can make a huge difference to your chances of success. And when I enter races using a default setup, it feels like I'm driving with one hand tied behind my back. The other option is to use somebody else's setup. Sometimes you can find free ones online, and if you join a community you may find members who will kindly share some. But most of the time, using somebody else's setup means paying for it. Now, I'm skeptical about buying setups and it's not really the right option for me. Given that I'll only race once or twice a week, for me it just seems like a waste of money. Also, surely setups are developed to suit an individual driving style. What works for an ultra-fast driver might not necessarily work for me. However, what if there was a third option? An option solely aimed at casual sim racers like me. Something a little bit like this. For this idea, I found inspiration from another racing game genre. Before I took up sim racing in 2020, I'd only ever play motorcycle games on the Xbox. Games like MotoGP, MXGP and Monster Energy Supercross. MotoGP 20 was the last bike game I bought before discovering sim racing, and I recently thought I'd fire it up for old time's sake. It made me realise the one big thing sim racing titles are lacking, and that's the ability to make custom setups easy and accessible to all players. How? Well, it's simple. The game provides you with your own virtual race engineer. If you're not confident enough to change the settings yourself, you can give your engineer feedback and they will make some suggested changes for you. On screen now, I've just explained my issue of leaning into corners too fast, and my virtual engineer has instantly made a number of setup changes for me. Even better, they've explained to me exactly what those changes are, so it helps educate you as you go without impacting your track time. Now, I'm sure there must have been car racing titles that have used this concept in the past, but it seems strange to me that not one of my current sim racing titles does it. For drivers like me who are short on time and even shorter on knowledge, a virtual engineer would be an absolute game changer. It would open up the door to the world of custom setups, making them far more accessible with an intuitive UX that's so easy to understand. Not only that, it would be a fantastic learning tool as well. I bet after 6 months or so of regularly using a virtual race engineer to make my setup tweaks for me, I'd build up a solid base knowledge of setups and feel more confident about working on them myself. So come on, sim racing devs, how about helping us casual racers out? Introducing a virtual race engineer to an existing or upcoming title would make such a huge difference for me, and I'm sure many other drivers like me. Thank you ever so much for listening, and please do let me know your thoughts. Would you find a feature like this useful? And if you use paid setups, let me know how you found them. I'd be really keen to hear from you. Meanwhile, if you're new to the channel, please do check out some of my other race videos. The one on screen now is from Assetto Corsa Competizione, and it is an absolute cracker. Thanks for watching.